Once again, Russia's economic problems feature in today's Russian papers. The headline in Nezavisima Gazeta: "The iron and steel industry reflects the general recession." An additional indicator of decline is the reduction in freight traffic. Several think tanks at once are warning of the onset of a recession in the Russian economy. So far, the government predicts a slight acceleration of the economy in 2026 compared to last year's managed cooling. However, real macro statistics and the situation in systemic industries point to a recession. In this way, Russia's iron and steel industry, as a mirror of the entire real sector of the economy, signals a general economic recession, experts from the Centre for Strategic Research said in February. Why is it a mirror? Because metallurgical products are not only exported, but also used in key industries inside the country, from housing construction to mechanical engineering, from machine tool building to shipbuilding. Therefore, if demand for metallurgists' products is steadily falling, then most likely this indicates general problems in the economy. In Russia, demand for iron and steel products fell by 14% in 2025 to 38.9 million tonnes, the lowest since 2011. The article goes on to say that you don't have to be an academic or an economist to be able to forecast a recession this year. That's because at the end of last year, GDP growth was almost zero. And in 2026, there are no visible factors stimulating the economy. Russia's export revenue is falling, budget revenues are falling, taxes are rising, consumer demand is shrinking, and the central bank's rate cut remains purely symbolic. A positive headline in the Russian government paper, Rossiyskaya Gazeta: in February, Russia's oil revenues may once again start rising. But actually the story is this: oil and gas budget revenues have fallen to their lowest level since July 2020. In January, payments are made for December, the Treasury received 393.3 billion rubles from the industry, according to data published by the Ministry of Finance. What's more, against the backdrop of rising bread prices, the Federal Anti-Monopoly Service announced it intends to analyse pricing for the most popular types of bread. Bakers say that price rises are due to the increase of almost all their costs, from salaries to transportation. Moskovsky Komsomolets reports that according to a new survey, a third of Russians are ready to receive their pay in envelopes via shady schemes without paying taxes. On to peace talks on Ukraine, which have been taking place in Abu Dhabi. The Russian papers don't see any major progress. Nezavisima Gazeta: there doesn't appear to have been a breakthrough in the peace process. There are no reports that the parties have reached an agreement on the most important issue, territory. However, there is still one result. For the first time in 5 months, an exchange of prisoners was carried out. Kommersant, participants of the talks, told journalists about the business-like atmosphere, but so far this hasn't led to a breakthrough. Moskovsky Komsomolets seems to believe that if and when it comes, a breakthrough will only happen completely unexpectedly. But a commentator in Izvestia believes that the silence around the talks in the UAE is a good sign, and the paper notes that there are very significant results on the Russia-US negotiation track. The parties decided to resume a high-level dialogue between their military departments. This communications channel was suspended back in 2021. At least this is stated on the website of the US Armed Forces European Command.